Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, Donald Sterling is banned from the NBA, but what does the move mean for race relations in America? Plus, who should be the Clippers' next owner if Sterling is forced out? And as the NBA playoffs continue, did the refs steal a win from the Thunder? All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now.
Effective immediately, I am banning Mr. Sterling for life from any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA. I am also fining Mr. Sterling $2.5 million, the maximum amount allowed under the NBA Constitution. I will urge the Board of Governors to exercise its authority to force a sale of the team, and will do everything in my power to ensure that that happens.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. Kerry Champion, Skip Bayless in studio, Stephen A. Smith in Los Angeles. Good morning, Stephen A.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good morning. So much to talk about.
Yes, sir.
Lots to digest in the last 24 hours, as just mentioned by Donald Sterling, by our Adam Silver. Donald Sterling banned $2.5 million fine, and the Clippers forcing him to sell the Clippers. Stephen A., he did everything he could under his power. The question is your reaction to what he did.
Well, I was very happy with the decision that Adam Silver came down with, because walking in to the situation, my attitude was very, very simple. Anything that left any wiggle room whatsoever as it pertained to Adam Silver utilizing his power to its fullest extent, if he did not elect to do so, there would have been an uproar. I knew that the players were very, very serious when they were talking about boycotting, because I had spoken to several players. And then ultimately the news came out that it wasn't just about the Clippers. It was about everybody that was playing in the playoffs willing to stand by the Clippers and support them and make their own protests. Clearly the players were not playing. They wanted these guys. They wanted Donald Sterling gone. They wanted a lifetime ban. They wanted the maximum fine. They wanted more than anything else. Even if it were a subliminal message or beyond, they wanted to make sure that they were able to look at the commissioner, and the commissioner was able to look at them and emphatically state that I have done all I can within my powers to rid this man of any kind of association with the NBA. And Adam Silver imposing the lifetime ban, just stripping him of any potency whatsoever. As a league owner, couldn't go to the practice facilities, can't come to NBA arenas, etc. That's what you wanted to do, because now it's up to the owners. If I am disappointed in anything, it's only one thing, and that is the fact that I am still waiting for a date. And I was hoping that Adam Silver gave that date as to when the owners would put forth an official vote to get rid of Donald Sterling altogether. It's going to require 3/4 of them to vote in favor of his dismissal as an NBA owner. My attitude is, how hard can it be? You got 29 owners. We've heard reports that the vote would be 29-0 in favor of what Adam Silver recommended. We've seen owners like Mark Cuban and Mickey Arison and others that came out on Twitter and beyond expressing their support for Adam Silver. And chances are most owners in this league would not hesitate to side with the commissioner. So if that is the issue, if that is the case, how come we don't have a date where the owners are going to vote for Donald Sterling to be gone? Because in the end, as much as I applaud Adam Silver for what he did, and he deserves to be applauded for what he did, the owners have to close the deal. This is still unfinished business. And the players that I've spoken to and the people that I've spoken to associated with the NBA Players Association said they'd give it about a week. And if they don't see something coming down the line, they're going to stand up and they're going to raise holy hell, because this is unfinished business. The deed is not complete until Donald Sterling is officially stripped of his ability to own the Los Angeles Clippers. It has to be done. But what Adam Silver could have done, it appears he has done. And I'm happy about that, as I know the players are, as I believe everybody in Black America should be, and America throughout.
I agree with you, unfinished business. And I think it's your responsibility, my responsibility, everyone in the media's responsibility to watchdog this going forward, because the NBA bylaws do have a time frame for this to happen, and we don't need to get into the nuances of this, but, you know, they have 3 days to send Donald Sterling a detailed letter, and then he has 5 days to respond. So we need to monitor the progress of this up to a vote, and then who knows? I don't even know how to discuss this, because I think we're getting into uncharted territory. What a leg does Donald Sterling have to stand on in real court, not in the NBA court, because I don't think he has a leg to stand on in the NBA court, but in real court. How strongly could he fight this and successfully? How long could he fight this? I don't know, but that's what we need to monitor. Now, back to Kerry's original question of reaction. Let me just give you my 2 cents here from a distance. I thought the best thing that Adam Silver did yesterday was to let his personal outrage fuel his delivery. And I know he's new at all this, but I thought he levied the equivalent of the ownership death penalty, if you will. I was saying yesterday it's like off with his head, figuratively, and that's what he basically levied. And he did so, I thought, quickly, concisely, very strongly, with no beating around the bush, no ifs, ands, buts, no evasive legal jargon. He got right to the point, and it was totally clear through the emotion of his delivery that he was dropping the hammer that the players and the ex-players and many civic leaders wanted to hear and see that he was going to drop, or they were about ready to drop one on him. So, and the owners, obviously. But Stephen A., this is me again from a distance. I was amazed at how much Twitter credit Adam Silver immediately received from everyone across the board. He received, via social media, a standing ovation, and it surprised me, because I'm not sure he deserved a standing ovation. I'm going to remind everyone, he was not acting alone to save the NBA. He's an employee of 29 other owners, other than Donald Sterling, who's also his quote-unquote boss, but 30 owners. He's just the commissioner. He was not acting alone. He had to have the full backing of those owners, so they deserve some applause also here, if we're going to go there. And the other point was, to me, Stephen A., that what else could he have done yesterday? How could he have not said exactly what he said? How could he have not used the full, broad reach of his powers to drop that hammer that he dropped? Because, remember, the players, and we'll discuss a little bit more in a minute, they were preparing to boycott. And remember, there was outrage across the board. This wasn't just an NBA story. This has become a national story. This was leading CNN. This was on the front page of USA Today. And Donald Sterling had become the easiest target in America. Was there anyone publicly, anyone anywhere publicly, who was defending Donald Sterling?
Nope.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know anybody. Maybe there's some closet racists who are applauding Donald Sterling. I don't know.
His wife saying he wasn't a racist.
What's that?
His wife saying he wasn't a racist.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, that's all. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, we're not
So-
interested in hearing from her, because she has her own checkered past. But go ahead.
Absolutely.
We'll
Very
get to
true.
we'll get to her in a
Eventually.
little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, in light of the NBA having given this man a pass for 10 long years at least, I might be being kind here, after so much was detailed publicly about his racist practices in his rental property business, and so many other stories, including one in 2009 in ESPN the magazine, one written for ESPN.com by Jamel Hill, your friend, about all of this man's dastardly deeds, detailed, in gory detail for all to read in public prints. The NBA looked bad here and would have looked all-time worst if it hadn't reacted the way it did yesterday. So what's to applaud here? They finally did what they should have done, and I said this on Monday. They should have done this a long, long time ago. So I'm having a hard time standing up in my seat and saying, way to go, Adam. The new commissioner is the new sheriff. He saved the day. I don't see it, Stephen A. I think he did exactly what he had to do without any other choice. This wasn't a 50-50 call. Well, do I side with this side or that side? There's only one side to take. And he took it and he swung the hammer from the heels and said, lifetime ban. Are we surprised? No. And he said, we will exercise our clause in which 3/4 of the vote of these owners, and I do have them behind me, will remove this man from ownership. Are we surprised by that? What else would you expect him to say yesterday? He said it, and he delivered it with passion and emotion, and he basically, in the end, said what everybody in the audience was trying to say themselves.
Sure.
So, way to go, Adam. I like the delivery, but not all that impressed with the outcome, because the outcome was inevitable. No choice, no way out.
It's nice for you to say that. What I would ask you to understand is that, particularly as it pertains to emotions emanating from the African American community, forgive us if we don't feel that way. Forgive us if we don't look at white folks in extremely powerful positions and say they had no choice. Because throughout American history, white America has always shown us that it has a choice, which is why we celebrate when something goes our way. In theory, I understand where you're coming from, and one would believe Adam Silver had absolutely no choice. But he could have used the words indefinitely to qualify the suspension. He could have said 5 years. He could have said 2 years, or indefinitely, or 5 years while we pursue getting rid of Donald Sterling. He could have said a lot of things. It might not have whetted our appetites. It might not have satisfied us. It would have infuriated somebody like myself, along with the players and how they felt or whatever. But it would not have been the first time that we've been infuriated over a decision emanating from the power structure that exists in this country. So let's understand that when you're celebrating, Adam Silver was the direct target of our euphoria yesterday, because he was the one that made an announcement that we all believed should have been forthcoming, was completely apropos and necessary. But it didn't necessarily mean it was going to happen, which is why we sat in suspense, even as we did this show yesterday, with you articulating, we'll see, because we simply didn't know what was going to come down. Now what I would say to you, and I understand and appreciate your position, and again, you're not wrong. Neither is Jamel Hill and the brilliant job she did yesterday. Neither is Bomani Jones and the brilliant job he continuously does in elocuting the sentiments emanating from our community. But there's a little bit of pragmatism that needs to be incorporated here. If you are a guy, for example, you're Donald Sterling, everybody wants to bring up the fact that there was, remnants of things that were going on throughout the years in Los Angeles. Well, keep in mind, Donald Sterling wasn't trying to become an owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. He was already the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. So it's not like you invited the dude in knowing his background. He was in already. And when did he come into the league, Skip? He came into the league as an owner in 1981. At that time, what was the NBA? It was on tape delay. Commissioner Stern wasn't even here yet as the commissioner. He was general counsel. Not only that, but it was the perception of the league, the image. It was drug infested.
Terrible.
It was violent. You know all of this other stuff. So he invested in the league at that particular moment in time and was a facilitator ultimately, because he's one of the owners who approved David Stern's ultimate arrival as commissioner of the NBA. So now you have this residue of racism and bigotry and all of this stuff following him. But the Department of Justice came after this man and couldn't get him. They had to settle.
Now, wait a second. They got him, but he settled, which again is some admission of guilt.
Oh, wait a minute. Donald Sterling was on the record, in writing, laughing.
It was in the LA Times. I read it to you. Yeah.
I didn't pay a dime.
Yeah. He said the insurance company paid the settlement.
There was no admission of guilt, etc. What did we say, for example, Skip, when we were talking about the NFL and their settlement with the retired players with the concussion issue and all of this other stuff? We abhorred the fact that the NFL didn't have to acknowledge or admit any culpability. They just gave them some money, and it was considerably less than what we had projected, blah, blah, blah. So we understand that in our court system, when you settle, particularly when there's no admission of guilt, that it doesn't necessarily mean guilt. So you've got that going on. You've got the Elgin Baylor case, which Elgin Baylor lost, despite his accusations. Outside of that, what you had was a bunch of people telling you about just this heinous words, the despicable behavior of this guy. Jamel Hill, Bomani Jones, yourself, me, everybody, no matter how disgusting we may find that, we are smart enough to know that in today's world, in that system, that is not enough to get rid of a man as an owner of a franchise. It's just that simple, because he's not an employee. He's an employer.
Okay,
and that's the difference.
One more quick point of order. J.A. Adonde points out that before a Clippers-Lakers game in 2010, 4 years ago, the great Phil Jackson said to the group of reporters regarding Donald Sterling and his behavior and racist tendencies, and said, how many incidents do we have on file? ? He's just saying, how long, what all do we need here before we take action? And then yesterday, we had our new commissioner ask a very tough question about basically, how did you give this man a pass for so long? And Adam Silver said, I can't speak to past actions other than to say that when specific evidence was brought to the NBA, we acted. Acted how? I'm unaware. I don't know how they acted.
Neither am I.
Okay, so...
But Skip, what I'm trying to say to you is that it ain't too hard to comprehend what did and didn't happen and why. The real onus is on us, the media, particularly the folks in Los Angeles. Where were you? That's the reality. I mean, I don't look at Commissioner Stern and all of them and saying, well, you know, what were you supposed to do? I mean, can you get rid of him or can't you? And if you can't get rid of him, why would you be a promoter of advertising the heinous things that he thinks and says when it could potentially diminish and ultimately disintegrate your brand, which is a multi-billion-dollar establishment? Why would you do that? You're not going to do that to jeopardize the business. So when we sit up here in an uproar and act like we don't comprehend how so much stuff could have been swept under the rug, well, we got to look at ourselves. Because it ain't their job to air their own dirty laundry and compromise their own billions to appease us. That's the reality. It's cold-blooded as that sounds. It happens to be true every single place you look in the world of business, not just here, but globally. We understand it. Let's stop acting like we don't know.
Okay. And then finally, remember, Adam Silver's worked for the NBA since 1992. He's been former Commissioner Stern's right-hand man for what? A decade at least. He's been right there at the flashpoint of every issue. He's a smart man. He knows the score. He knew yesterday if he had dared to use the word indefinitely, I'm sorry, what was your word? Used the
indefinite?
Word.
Yes, he said that.
Like indefinitely instead of lifetime. Indefinitely, okay? So if you use the word indefinitely, that would be the flashpoint word yesterday. That would be the signal that the players were poised to pounce on to boycott the games last night. It is on hair trigger. They were poised to boycott every game, all 3 games, all 6 teams poised to walk off the floor. Wow. Well, you can say the players won, but I don't think the commissioner had any choice here because he knew he was in the wrong.
I don't think he did either. But that still doesn't mean that you can't applaud him for doing the obvious, for doing the necessary. I'm not trying, nobody's trying to anoint him and erect a statue and act like suddenly, you know what, he can't do no wrong. You're simply taking a moment to sit there and say thank you for doing what obviously needed to be done.
That's well
all
said.
you're doing.
It obviously needed to be done, and he did it.
Stephen A., you asked about the vote. We're just now hearing sources tell our Mark Stein that the NBA Advisory and Finance Committee will have a conference call on Thursday to determine when and where this vote will take place. Gentlemen, bear with me.
It needs to take place next week to 10 days.
Let's move
on. It needs to be by then.
And let's talk about emotion, shall we? A lot of emotion in the game. Emotion drained the Clippers for Game 4, obviously, which is why they lost it. But emotion actually drove them for Game 5. And it seems that Chris Paul was, at best, describing it.
It almost brought tears to your eyes just to feel the support from, our fans. It was emotional. It was very emotional, and I can't say thank you enough to all the fans that came out and supported us.
I was really proud of them. I thought they were tired a lot tonight. I think you could see that, like Blake and DJ. I thought, you could see them getting tired a lot. I thought that was from all the emotional, baggage over the last 4 days. You could see that. I ran out. I had one timeout left in the entire fourth quarter, and I was just using them to give guys a blow. They just needed it. So I just thought they had great mental toughness tonight, and really wanted to will this game, and I thought tonight they did that. So I was really proud of them.
The atmosphere, what did it feel like? Stephen A., you were there last night. What did Silver's decision have on the impact of that game last night? Describe it for us.
The decision took a load off their shoulders. So it lightened the load on the players and made them considerably looser for the game. And I think that was very helpful to them. But then to come out, when they came out to, for the layup line, their pregame warm-ups, and for that crowd to have already been packed inside Staples Center, for them to get the roar that they received, it really, really resonated, and it gave you goosebumps. I'm glad that I was there to experience and witness that moment, because it was something that was special. You had black folks incredibly proud because not only over the fact that the commissioner had made the decision that he made, and to some degree it had validated the significance of the African American community in the eyes of America, but to also see the players and considering the way they had conducted themselves, and considering Doc Rivers and the leadership he showed in guiding these young men. It was something that was incredibly touching on the black side. On the white side, you had a whole bunch of white folks that were there applauding these black men for, again, how they conducted themselves. But more importantly, they wanted to make sure that those players, this team, and the African American community and beyond understood that Donald Sterling is not us. We don't think like that. We don't feel that way. We don't act that way. We don't believe in what he believes in. We're not of him. And so you saw the signs, we are one, and that was the theme for the evening. And it was something that was just, it was special. And it was a good thing to be a part of, because the kind of things that America likes to brag about in terms of being a gorgeous mosaic and being so inclusionary and what have you, to be there in that moment, to witness the raw emotions and the level of support these guys received, it did give you goosebumps. It did make you feel, I don't want to sound too corny, but it actually made you feel proud to be an American, to be quite honest with you.
I'm with you on this, and I'm just getting those vibes through my TV set. But I think from a distance, it really resonated, and it was tangible. You could just feel it coming through your screen last night. There was this unleashing of relieved emotion on the part of the players and the fans. And did they ever unleash early on the visiting team? Because, Stephen A., you were talking about your man DeAndre. Wow.
Yes.
Did he not turn back into a monster last night? He was
I had a talk with him before the game. Whew. I mean, I knew he was going to show up. He was ready.
That early play when he just ripped the ball away from Draymond, just kind of ragdolled him, threw him on the ground.
Fair.
He was all, what was his line? He has 25 and 18. Wow.
Jeez.
Not bad. So here's my takeaway from a distance, Stephen A. I thought last night the Warriors looked like the Clippers did on Sunday in Oakland. I thought the Warriors were the team that was drained of their emotion last night, while the Clippers were driven by emotion, and it was almost like turnabout was fair play. because there was a story that we had, I think, from the San Jose Mercury News, how much time that Steph and company had to invest pregame into how exactly would they boycott if it came to that. And they had it specifically choreographed down to, we will come out for tip-off. We will exchange pleasantries with the other team, with the Clippers, and then as the ball goes up, we will walk off en masse, walk off the floor. So this took some time to plan this all out. And Steph Curry looked drained at tip-off to me. I know he made 4 threes, but he took only 10 shots. He had 8 turnovers in that game. So distracted and drained. I thought it was the Warriors who finally got hit hard by the crisis of this, the way the Clippers got hit hard on Saturday night going into Sunday. So maybe it evened out. And now let's let the series begin. You know, now we've sort of gotten all this behind us, and we go back for, obviously, a Game 6, and clearly the Clippers are back in command here. But maybe the Warriors can now climb back into the series because they were the team that looked deadheaded last night.
See, I don't agree with that. I think the series finally evens out Thursday night in Oakland. I don't think it was even last night because the Clippers were uplifted. You know, it's not, you know, everybody was happy with the verdict that came down from Adam Silver, but at the same time, the Clippers were uplifted. They were the ones that got a significant load off their shoulders. The Golden State Warriors, what they had to deal with yesterday, they've been having to deal with since Saturday. So it really didn't change for them. But everything changed for the Clippers. And when you combine that with the fact that they were also uplifted by their home crowd and finally back to being allowed to play basketball, it resonated significantly. You don't see Doc Rivers walking around high-fiving fans and all of his players all the time. That's not something that he does. I mean, he's definitely very inspirational, but he's not the rah-rah kind of guy. But he sensed what the moment was. He sensed what it was all about. And so now Thursday, I believe everybody gets back to just playing basketball.
Yeah.
But last night I thought that the Clippers were at a decisive and considerable advantage because they were given a tremendous boost.
Okay. So I think the series starts or restarts.
Right.
Thursday.
Game 6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the next 2 games.
Yeah.
All right. Thursday we're playing basketball. If you watch Game 5 in the Memphis-OKC series, you may have seen the most talked about non-play. Joey Crawford puts Kevin Durant on ice in the middle of shooting 2 free throws. Less than 28 seconds left in overtime. KD at the line. He makes the first. Crawford, as you can see, blowing his whistle, gives him back the ball. He misses the second. Crawford heading over to the scorer's table. After the game, the players talked about why this happened.
I was just trying to stay focused and knock the free throw down. Unfortunately, I didn't. I don't know what happened, but I got to make that free throw.
I looked at KD and we just were like, what is Joey doing? You know, we had no idea. But, hey, you know, I guess it worked at the end of the night. But, yeah, we were both kind of confused at what was going on.
It was an awkward situation, I'll say that. But, you know, that's neither here, neither there. We have to just think about what we can do better going into the next game.
It was reported after the game that Crawford wanted the scoreboard fixed to show that both teams are in the bonus for the free throws. Skip Bayless, did Joey Crawford cost OKC the game?
Stephen A. Smith, he contributed mightily. And will you forgive me for using a word that we have been using in a far more serious context over the last 3 days? The word outrage. Could I please take a quick break here and use it just in the simple basketball context, watching NBA playoff games context? I was outraged last night once again by a Joey Crawford who has driven me crazy night after playoff night for many, many years. He is a very good referee, one of the best. He might even be the best. But he has a flaw with which I could never get comfortable. He wants to be a star referee. Those 2 words do not go together. They are an oxymoron. Star referee do not go together. Because as I always say about referees, this is one of the oldest sayings in the NBA book. If you did not notice the referees, they did a good job. Joey Crawford wants to be seen. He wants to upstage the game. Joey Crawford always is in the middle of everything with over-dramatic, over-theatrical, look-at-me calls. He has to really throw his hands and feet into it, jump into the call, and exaggerate it to the point that we say, look at Joey, he made another call. I am sick of it, and it manifested itself in the midst of another great Thunder Grizzlies game. These two, you want to talk about a matchup here? We have had 4 straight overtimes. So we're coming down the wire here. We're coming down the tracks to another great close. And we have about a 90% free throw shooter on the line. And I agree with Kevin Durant. He should have made the second one. But he makes the first one, 27 seconds left, and all of a sudden, here comes Joey, mad dashing up the lane, running with his exaggerated little chop steps, and Kevin had already taken his dribble. He spins the ball first, and he took the dribble, and he's coming to set position, and Joey comes and snatches the ball from him. And, of course, at home, I'm thinking, oh, my God, what just happened in the arena? Is there a fight we can't see off camera? Did something just happen in the stands that the game is going to be disrupted by? We're going to have to postpone the rest of it because this was serious business, I thought.
The way he ran.
Yeah, and Joey runs to the scorer's table, and he's over-dramatic, over-theatrical, blah, blah, blah. No, listen to me. Listen to me, he says. And it comes out later. Oh, he just wanted the scoreboard at the far end, the end zone scoreboard, to reflect the fact that the Thunder were now in the bonus, because when Tony Allen had committed a non-shooting foul on Kevin Durant, it was unclear to the Thunder for just a brief moment that, oh, we get to shoot now, we're in the bonus. And, of course, the referees were all over it. They said, oh, yeah, you're in the bonus now. So what? Now, it's an important detail, but it's not crucial to that moment to disrupt the free throw process that Kevin had already initiated. So did it disrupt his thought process? Yeah, it did. Should he have made it? Okay, yes, he should have, because he's that good and it was that big of a moment. But I still say that Joey Crawford was completely, utterly out of line because Joey wanted to upstage that basketball game. I am sorry, he did contribute.
Well, I agree with you that he contributed. I agree with where you're coming from, except to say that Joey Crawford wants to be a star referee. Skip, that's not true. I've known Joey Crawford for years. I'm just telling you. I've known Joey Crawford for years. That's not Joey Crawford's problem. Joey Crawford's problem, in my estimation, what I have learned from watching him in recent memory compared to what he used to be. Remember when he got into that beef with Tim Duncan years ago and the commissioner and that deal with? You remember that?
Yeah.
You know, my problem with Joey Crawford right now, and it really hurts me to say this because, again, I know and admire and respect the man, is that there's a human element that comes to everything. We understand letter of the law, you know, following the rules to the team. We get all of that. But the human element is that really you need to see it up on a scoreboard to know that to see that they're in the bonus at that particular moment. You couldn't let Kevin Durant shoot the second free throw.
Thank you.
Then blow the whistle and say, y'all need to put that back up on the scoreboard. You couldn't do that. I mean, you know, it's like this need to just be so emphatic. It's almost like I have to be a drill sergeant at all times these days. And that's the only part about Joey Crawford that disappointed me as it pertains to last night's game, because I think it's indicative of him being fixated on what he believes is right, and that's that, as opposed to taking into account the moment and saying, okay, I can let this go just until a guy shoots the second free throw, and then after that, you know, because I don't need to disrupt his rhythm, and I don't need to in any way become a part, potentially, of the game. He didn't do that. And that's disappointing because, to me, the Joey Crawford that I've known for years and that I've watched for years ago, I think he does that differently. And now I see a guy that doesn't seem to care about that. And I'm alarmed by that because that's not what I've known him to be for years, and I sincerely hope it changes because, to me, he is one of the great referees of all time. He's worthy of our respect. I know he has mine, and I genuinely like him. It's just that I think that I wish he would do things a little bit differently as it pertains to what I just explained. But to get into Oklahoma City, let's be clear. They're in a world of trouble. A matter of fact, Memphis should be favored to win Game 6. And if Memphis is favored to win, if Memphis ends up winning Game 6, 3 things should happen. Number 1, we need to look at Kevin Durant a little bit differently. And we need to look at him a little bit differently because you that big time, you got to find a way to pull this out. And you can't be so passive or so dismissive in the notion that you're being hurt by your performance and that of your team, acting like it's not a big deal or acting like it's nobody's problem. That's just not what winners do. Kevin Durant's greatness mandates that he achieve more than he's achieving. It's just that simple. And if he doesn't, if he comes up short again, this time in the first round, we need to look at him just a little bit differently. Russell Westbrook, I'm sorry. What the hell are you doing taking 31 shots? 31 shots. I mean, something's wrong with that picture. 10 for 31. 31 shots. Combined, him and Kevin Durant are 31 for 100 over the last 2 games. Come on, y'all. Y'all better than that. And the fact that you're not doing, I understand Memphis is a damn good team. And they play rough and rugged and they play some defense. But my goodness, come on now. And last but not least, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, I brought them up first because I have to save the best or the worst possibly for last, Skip. I like them genuinely. I truly do. Scott Brooks can no longer get a pass.
Whoa.
Enough. I need to see better spacing. I need to see better ball movement. I need to see some plays designed where Kevin Durant doesn't have to take on 2 or 3 people, having to dribble between defenses to get a shot off. I need to see some innovativeness and creativity on the part of Scott Brooks. I just need to see it because I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. And to say that it's sacrilegious, heathenous, blasphemous, I don't know what to say. When you are, it's one thing for Reggie Jackson to be playing and to get big shots. It's another thing entirely when it seems like the offense is literally being designed around him at one point at pivotal moments late in the game. I have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on the floor. I love me some Reggie Jackson. Boy, I love him. I love his game. I love the fact that he's a backup. I think he could start for most teams in this league. But with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on the floor, there is no damn business on God's green earth why this man is your primary offensive option. There's something wrong. And if the Oklahoma City Thunder lose this series, I got to look at Scott Brooks, man. I got to look at him and say, what's up? I need an explanation because I'm looking at the spacing on the floor. I'm looking at the ball movement. I'm looking at plays being designed. I'm looking at the arduous task that has to be embraced by Kevin Durant, one play after another, where he's taking on 2 or 3 guys. And I'm saying, you can't figure out a way, more picks, more screens, something? I mean, you can't do something to free this dude up? You got a 6'10 dude with a 7'6 wingspan that can pull up from 30, that's got a handle like a guard. Okay?
Unfortunately, remember, all he does now is pull up from 30. That's his shot.
But I'm just saying, if you Scott Brooks, you got to but even those shots are contested, Skip.
Okay, but remember, there is no way this team would have won Game 4 in Memphis without Reggie Jackson turning into the straw that stirred the drink. He just took the game over because Durant and Westbrook were pathetic in that game. They had no chance. And he got them back home. And so last night, and we'll get into more of this later, they just said, maybe Reggie can take us home again. He had earned the right to have some plays called for him late in the fourth quarter. But I am with you. I keep saying it again and again on this show. The best team in the NBA is the Oklahoma City Thunder. The team with the most talent and firepower, a team that's better than the Miami Heat or the Spurs or whoever else you want to throw out there, the Clippers. The best team is the Thunder. There's only one team that can beat the Thunder, the Thunder. And they beat themselves again last night, just the way they keep beating themselves over the last 3 or 4 games against a Memphis team that has their number. They know how to play them. They know how to frustrate them.
One of the things I do not like that I'm seeing, you know, what happened to the Jeremy Lambs of the world? What happened to the Allens of the world? What happens to the Jones of the world? You had people coming off your bench. You would literally throw the kitchen sink at teams early on, which was one of the other things that freed Kevin Durant up late. Because when you are a team devoid of a post presence offensively, Skip, then the way to beat them is with your athleticism, with your legs, with your speed. But how much of that are you going to have late in games if you've got God? Kevin Durant logged 51 minutes. Russell Westbrook, 48 minutes. I'm looking at Ibaka at 42. I'm saying to you, one of the reasons you were effective is because you threw the whole kitchen sink at people and you wore them down and they were softened up for the fourth quarter against a Durant and a Westbrook. But you're not doing that now because now that the playoffs are here, you did what typical coaches do, go 7 or 8 deep, and you're going that route. And I'm like, look, this ain't going to cut it. Scott Brooks has to think about something. They lose this series, Skip. It's bad. You cannot be this good with 59 victories and go home in the first round. And we're not saying something about it.
Hey, I'm going to say it one last time. Russell Westbrook is still the most confounding, frustrating player in the NBA. He makes a sensational play that no one else could make, followed by a knuckleheaded play that makes you sit back and say, what was he thinking? Yeah. Nothing. He wasn't thinking anything. Because he's now the kitchen sink. They throw Russell Westbrook at you for better and for worse.
Back to the topic at hand as we wrap this up on Crawford. Skip says exaggerated chop steps. You come up with that on your own last night? That was that run you didn't like.
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Wow. I'm sweating now for just trying to do
think about it. Here we go. 1, 2.
Word is you're going to buy the Clippers, are you?
No, there's haven't been no talks of that. People just link me to the team. I've been linked all to this situation, but we hope that the Clippers get a great owner, whoever that's going to be.
And it's not going to be Magic Johnson. He's not interested, but there were plenty of names thrown out yesterday. P. Diddy, Oracle owner Larry Ellison, music mogul David Geffen, Floyd Mayweather. That's all an aside, though. We're going to put all of these guys on the hook. And I guess I'll start with you first, Stephen A. Who do you think should own the Clippers? Best fit?
I think the person that should own the Clippers is the person that's on the record, on camera, denying it. That's Magic Johnson. I don't care what he says. You can't convince me that if the Clippers are on the market and Commissioner Adam Silver and the NBA community is interested in Magic Johnson being an owner, that Magic Johnson is going to turn down an opportunity to own a basketball franchise in the city of Los Angeles. I'm not convinced of it, not by a long shot. I think that Magic Johnson has obviously very, very influential and powerful friends with a lot of money. I think that he could get the group together. I don't think anyone would doubt that he'd have a big-time legitimate shot at getting ownership of a franchise. I don't think that he'd be too keen on being a part of a group that paid Donald Sterling close to $1 billion, which are what the Clippers are worth. Remember, the Milwaukee Bucks had 9 suitors and still sold their franchise for $500 million. So imagine what the Clippers are worth in the Los Angeles market. But we also have to keep in mind that it's not within the NBA's, I don't believe it is, in the NBA's jurisdiction to dictate who Donald Sterling can sell his team to. I mean, they could have some say in terms of who they let in the NBA community, but at the same time, I don't think that they get to pick the owner. Who knows? That's something that needs to be investigated because it'd be real interesting considering what Donald Sterling had to say if he'd be interested in selling his franchise to a group led by a black man. But that's just me. In the end, however, whether it's Magic Johnson, whether it's David Geffen, whether it's the guy Larry Ellison, a host of individuals that were pursuing ownership of the Golden State Warriors, no matter who gets the ownership deal from the Clippers, it doesn't take much to be better than Donald Sterling.
You know, this is tough for me because I know what David Geffen and Larry Ellison have achieved in the business and entertainment worlds, but I have no idea how they would be as the owner of a sports team, because you never know until they're in charge. And as I said, when Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys and put his foot in his mouth every other day, there's no school to teach an owner how to be a good owner. You just have to figure it out on the fly. But I am with you on Magic Johnson to a point. Clearly, he's an iconic figure, extremely successful as a great basketball player and an entrepreneur in the business world. But there's one sticking point for me. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Magic Johnson is a Laker. And just in my heart of hearts, I just can't see him as anything but a Los Angeles Laker. I know he's had issues with the directions Jim Buss is taking his Lakers, but they are still his Lakers. He is purple and gold. He is not Clippers colors. What are they?
Red, white,
blue. Okay. He's not that. He's a great American, red, white, and blue, but he's not Clippers red, white, and blue. So Stephen A., I agree. In the big picture, it's perfect. He lives there. He could take over. I have no doubt he would be not a good owner. He would be a great owner, but he's a Laker through and through. He's the Laker. He has a statue not because he was a Clipper. He's a Laker. I'm sorry. Carrie does agree with me on this point. Might be the first thing she's ever agreed with me on.
Stephen A., he says, I always agree with you.
I can't get there. I just can't. I don't think it's a good fit because it's wrong. It's like somehow in the sports context, it doesn't fit. And ultimately, I don't think it would fit. And in the end, I'm just speaking for Magic here, I don't think he would enjoy, in the long term, owning the Los Angeles Clippers. As great a job as he might do, that's just my 2 cents.
It's a good point. I thought about that. But I also thought about him giving up his small percentage of ownership with Dr. Buss and the Lakers. I thought about what he's had to say about the Lakers. I think about the direction that Jim Buss is taking these Lakers in. How the disintegration of the franchise is potentially at its doorstep as long as he continues to exercise the leadership that he has exercised. As an aside, being here last night, don't bite on the reports that D'Antoni's returning, by the way.
Nice.
The likelihood is that he will still be gone. But that's a story for another day.
Wow.
What I would tell you, however, is that I definitely get where you're coming from. I've thought about it. It's possible. But I also think about the Magic Johnson. I've always thought Magic Johnson was synonymous with basketball. He's part owner of a baseball team.
Yeah.
That's here in Los Angeles.
I agree.
When it comes to the world of business, he's about making good business decisions and good business deals. Could you imagine if the group that he's connected with for the Dodgers is also the group that wants to buy the Clippers? Could you imagine the level of cachet that would elevate his already significant stature to? I think that if you're Magic Johnson, you have to think about those things because at its core, in the end, no matter how much of a Laker he is, and he is a Laker, the Buss family has made it clear that their business is a family business. And even though Dr. Buss didn't want Magic to leave, nobody else seemed to express any kind of problem with him being gone.
Yep.
And as a result of that, who knows whether or not his competitive juices could get flowing. And you talk about red, white, and blue. Who said that was going to be the color of the Clippers if he took over? You look at the arena, you look at everything. Who says things are going to stay the same? So I would ask you to just keep that in mind. Again, if I had to bet my money, I'd side with you, Skip. But I'm just saying to you, I'm not going to rule out the possibility of Magic Johnson becoming an owner of an NBA franchise. And the possibility of him doing it in Los Angeles, the only plausible option is the Clippers. Because the Buss family ain't trying to sell, because if the Buss family sold the Lakers, they'd have no significance in Los Angeles. They are the Lakers. That's why they're significant.
Yep.
And Jim Buss is messing that up.
He is.
So they're going to have to do something.
If I could snap my fingers, in the best of all worlds, but an unreal world, Magic would own the Lakers.
Yes.
So
he just would. He just would. It's perfect.
It makes sense.
It's supposed to be. It feels right. Magic wasn't the greatest coach, but I believe he could be a great owner and operator, big picture operator of the Lakers. And maybe at some point that could happen. I don't know when.
Let me tell you something right now.
It doesn't look good. But
as great of a businessman as Magic Johnson has been, I think he'd even be a better owner of a basketball team.
Sure. Yeah.
Because this dude, I mean, when you talk about recruiting guys and drafting and signing free agents, when you have to sit before Magic Johnson, oh, trust me, if you don't have that heart, not just the skill, but if you don't have what it takes, he's gonna spot it. He'll spot it.
All right. Well, Magic.
So Stephen A., make it happen.
Make it happen and go down. No.
Magic buys Lakers.
Please.
Make it happen. I know you can.
Make that happen.
You
Stephen
can make
A.
it.
Got to get rid of Buss.
All right. At present, Magic has said he is not interested in buying the Clippers.
Wait, Jim Buss buys Clippers?
Yeah, we'll switch over.
Okay.
If I had to guess, he's interested in bringing an NFL team to the Los Angeles area.
Bingo.
That's probably what he's focused on.
That's his long-term goal. I agree.
Now.
Yeah.
I thought they were great. You know, I was really proud of them. I thought they were tired a lot tonight. I think you could see that, like Blake and DJ. I thought, you could see them getting tired a lot. I thought that was from all the emotional, baggage over the last 4 days. I just thought they had great mental toughness tonight and really wanted to will this game, and I thought tonight they did that. So I was really proud of them.
Doc Rivers speaking after the Clippers' Game 5 win. On the same day, Commissioner Adam Silver banned Donald Sterling for life because of racist comments that were made last week. Silver said he will try to force Sterling to sell the team, adding, quote, "We together stand in condemning Sterling's comments." Now, joining us is our coach, Herm Edwards. We talk about the decision that was made. First off, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And we're talking bigger picture. How important was this decision for race relations?
Well, I think it was a decision that, for me, not really surprising in the sense that the playing field of athletics has always been a field of equal. Players know that, coaches know that, generally GMs and owners know that. And when you think about the decision, I think we all sat there and waited at 2 o'clock what the commissioner was going to, levy, and we all wondered. But I think when you sit in that position, a position of leadership, you have to make tough decisions. He made a decision that was right for the league, for sports in general, because sports is always about defining moments. This was a defining moment for the NBA. For race relationship, I don't know that. People are entitled to feel the way they feel, but when you're an athlete or a coach, and this is just my take on it, and I've been involved in athletics all my life, as a player, as a coach, it always seems to bring us together. And we don't look at color. We don't look at origin of where you grew up or how much money you make or you didn't have. It kind of brings people together. It's a huddle. This is what's great about sports. It's a huddle, and there's a common bond in that huddle. We don't look at people and we just say, hey, you know what, we get this guy's from Arkansas, well, this guy's from California. It doesn't matter. We just all get in this huddle and say, hey, we're all in this for a common good of the game and for what we're trying to do. And the commissioner understood that. The players understood that. The problem is there was a guy amongst them that didn't quite understand that. And he's suffering the consequences for it.
All right. Stephen A.
The bottom line is simple. As we sit here right now, we have to recognize the fact that the NBA must now demonstrate to its players, its fans, its business partners, their sponsors, that Donald Sterling's views are not pervasive throughout ownership. That's the only thing really left to establish. And you do so by making sure that 3/4 of the owner, at least, vote to axe this guy as an owner of the Los Angeles Clippers and get him out of here. When that transpires, when that final proverbial nail is placed in that coffin, then I think that there's no question that the decision that Adam Silver handed down yesterday and the ultimate results handed down to Donald Sterling is good for race relations, because you have to understand, sports, by and large, particularly in the United States of America, is the closest thing that we have to a meritocracy. Your deeds count. What you do count. And it's noticeable. It's not able to be glossed over. It's not able to be hidden behind curtains, and the proverbial glass ceilings supposedly don't exist, which is why black folks gravitate to it. You don't just gravitate to sports because of the money. You don't just gravitate to sports because you have the ability to play a sport. You gravitate to it because of the recognition that emanates from your accomplishments, therefore putting you front and center as an individual who has validated what you bring to the table. If you think about it, as a coach, which Herm Edwards was, as an analyst, which we all are in our own respects, what are we doing it for? We're standing front and center and being in front of the camera because no matter what anybody can say, it's undeniable what we bring to the table, whether it's good or bad or whatever, because we're in front of the camera. You see what we're doing, as opposed to being in the political world that we live in, where everything is operated behind the curtains and what you do can be disguised. And that's why you have issues with race relations, because you have segments of our populace who are considered relatively disenfranchised, that seem voiceless and feel voiceless. If the commissioner had come down yesterday and had not satisfied us with his ruling, it would have been yet the latest example of all of our fears from those disenfranchised communities. And it would have taken us back, because we would have looked at that and said, you see, here we go again. You can say anything, and you can do anything to black folks, and you can do anything to minorities, and you can do anything to the disenfranchised and the lesser privileged, etc., etc. And it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. The fact that the commissioner didn't do that, and the owners presumably won't do that, tells us that we have marched towards a better world and a better day, which is why the players, not just in the NBA, but throughout the world of sports yesterday, were tweeting and talking in celebratory fashion, because you feel like you've been validated. Of course, it was a good day and a progressive step in race relations.
Very well said. And yet, I'm going to ask for help from all three of you, Stephen A. and Coach and Kerry, because Stephen A. and I have gone back and forth about this over the last 3 days. What Stephen A. just put into great perspective, I could not grasp yesterday as I watched TV and I saw Kevin Johnson, as a spokesman for the players, stand on the steps of L.A. City Hall and call an historic day. That lost me. And Stephen A. got on me the last couple of days for how many times did I say I'm disqualified here
before you speak,
because I don't get it in no way, shape, or form, because I am obviously a white guy. I cannot begin to see, feel what you can see and feel as African American about this crisis. So I disqualified myself, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and finally Stephen A. got on me and said, hey, you don't need to do that. But then when I gave my 2 cents to start the show, it pushed a button in this man that I love. And I do love Stephen A. Smith, as our audience knows. I don't always like him, but I always love this man. And
I love you too, Skip.
Thank you. And yet I pushed a really hot button in our A block because I gave my white perspective on what I saw yesterday. I thought it was a no-brainer. And Coach touched on it early because I saw that Adam Silver had nowhere to go but to swing that biggest hammer, to exercise his broadest power and come down with a lifetime ban and the max penalty, which was paltry, laughable, $2.5 million, and we will move forward to remove this man from ownership. There's no way out because his players, all teams last night, 6 teams, were poised to boycott, and they should have been, because this group of owners has let that one owner operate as a very public racist for a good decade, maybe more. It's been out there. It's painfully public what his practices are and were. And You let that happen, you have no choice, man. Now you are backed into a corner. You better come out swinging. And to Stephen A's point, if you even drop the indefinite, he is indefinitely suspended, I think you got a boycott on your hand.
Sure.
You better come down as hard as you can come down. But to me, that was a no-brainer. But Stephen A said, no, that's your white perspective. It is. And I could, you know, I'm looking at it completely upside down, and I could be completely wrong about this. So I'm asking, Stephen A did explain it, but Coach, chime in and tell me what I'm not seeing about an historic day.
Well, Coach, look, Stephen A simply said that he thought he had no choice. This is Skip's take.
Right.
And Stephen A said, no, absolutely not. He had plenty of choices.
Because
history has shown
that white men in power have always had
and black people always feel that they have a choice. We kind of felt like, guess what? We're ready to boycott because we're not really sure what's going to happen. Because historically speaking, they don't always go in our favor.
There's always the due process.
Right.
They give you that one. And it kind of lingers. He was very decisive.
He was.
Matter of fact.
Yes.
And I think this is what Stephen A is saying. This is what people of color are saying. That this man stood before the masses and there was no hesitation. And I think when he said for life.
Yes.
It was like, whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Okay. It's not the end of the season and we'll decide and we'll get together. It was like for life. And when he said that, I went, good for you.
Were you surprised?
Well, the life one, you know, I didn't know if he was going to come with life right away. I thought they would wait, you know, till obviously ban him for the rest of the games, for the rest of the season, then sit together, because that's generally what happens.
Sure.
That's generally what happens.
Sure.
But he stood before the masses. And I tell you what, when he said life, I went. And I was sitting right in the green room when he said, I said, did that man just say life?
And then he went on to say.
And what I got was this out of it.
Yeah.
With money and power, you are afforded a lot of ability to do things. You can do things other people cannot. We see you, Stephen A. But when he told him life, and people are getting mad. He says, well, he can sell his team and still make money. It has nothing to do with his money. His money is no good. He can't buy his way into can't buy his way into that club anymore. It's like, you know, it's like country clubs. There's certain country clubs we know about.
Right.
Okay, Skip? That you wish you could join, but with all the money in the world, you can't join it. Well, he can't own anymore.
Right.
He can't put his feet on the hardwood floor and sit in the front row. Right. With all the money he has.
We're kicking you out of the exclusive
You're out of the club. You can't put your feet on the floor.
You can't be here anymore.
That's what he wants to do. That man, all the money he has, his privilege is, I'm the owner. I can put my feet on the floor.
Yeah.
That's my team. Guess what? We don't want your money. You're out of the club.
Yep.
To me, that sends a message. That sends a message through our country.
Yeah.
And when you act this way, you know what? You should be denied that privilege.
Okay. But what Skip is saying to you was that he thought that's all he could do. Stephen A says, no, not so fast.
And I kind of agree with Stephen A, because they could have kind of let this thing kind of, okay, we'll wait till the playoffs are over with. We'll gather up. We'll ban him for the rest of the season. We'll all gather. No, it was like, hey, guess what, partner? Done. Out.
Okay. Stephen A, we see you, and without even breaking a sweat, Coach kept looking straight forward and said, Stephen A, we see you.
I got you.
We got you back.
I was waving because it went dark in here and y'all couldn't catch me for a second. I couldn't even hear y'all for a minute or two. But I would say this. The one other thing, and why this was a progressive step forward, and you know, before the game last night, I had to go outside in the street because 710 ESPN LA was doing a radio show right across the street from the Staples Center outdoors. And there was a crowd of people around, a lot of young folks that were out there and what have you. And one of the things that I highlighted to them was, look at the way these guys conducted themselves. You have to remember, I'm not going to name any names here, but there was once upon a time when there was a lockout going on, Skip, and I told you about this. And as one of the owners were talking, Abe Pollin, the late Abe Pollin, for the Washington Bullets, Washington Wizards, as he was talking, there was a player that literally said this during the collective bargaining negotiations and stuff like that. This ain't about anything. All this is about is who has the biggest, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
And he said, why don't we just pull our stuff out and just see who's bigger?
Okay.
Something ignorant like that. Actually said that to a grown man in A. Poland. You go from that years ago, more than a decade, more than a decade ago, to LeBron James making the statement that he made, conducting himself like a professional along the way. Chris Paul, the president of the Players Association, conducting himself the way that he did. Roger Mason, Jr., on the board, in attendance. Kevin Johnson, a former NBA player who's now a mayor.
Yep.
You have Michael Jordan, a former player who's now an owner. Magic Johnson, a former player who's now a business mogul and an owner of a Major League Baseball team. Okay? You see what's transpiring. Successful black men, not just athletes, but who've proven their intellect and, more importantly, their professionalism and being an adult and conducting themselves that way to execute and display the same results you would have accorded to somebody who was belligerent or engaging in hooliganism could have potentially provoked that similar kind of behavior, not from those individuals, but from those out in the streets and beyond, because it would have said to black America, you see, what difference does it make? Y'all don't hear us no matter what. And that's what you have to be careful about. So the fact that they conducted themselves the way that they did, they used their intellect, they didn't rely on emotion, they relied on fact, they relied on information, they relied on connections, they relied on decency, they relied on their manhood being adults, understanding how to conduct themselves, etc., etc. Sent the message. We're going to play this game the way it's supposed to be played. We're going to conduct ourselves the way that we conduct ourselves. We do our thing, you guys do yours. And that's what happened. And it was great for race relations on that level as well, because it also taught and reminded our community how we're supposed to conduct ourselves as well in the process of trying to get things done.
All right. Poetic Justice Stephen A. And before we go, Herm, thank you so much for joining us. Magic Johnson, as he does, has just tweeted into the show. And he said, Skip, Stephen A. and Carrie gave me incredible love, and they're right. One day, this is key, folks, I want to own an NBA franchise. Just not the Clippers, Magic. Not the Clippers.
What makes the Indy 500 the greatest spectacle in racing?
Stands are on their feet. And now a winner of the
Indianapolis 500, my friend. The Indianapolis 500, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on ABC.
As for Mr. Sterling's ownership interest in the Clippers, I will urge the Board of Governors to exercise its authority to force a sale of the team, and will do everything in my power to ensure that that happens.
All right. Well, now we're hearing that both Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Oscar De La Hoya have expressed interest in purchasing that franchise. We welcome in our boxing analyst, Teddy Atlas. Welcome. Good to see you in person.
It's good to see you guys, and it's good to have Skip within jabbing range.
Okay, so you got your right ready for him, huh? Okay, listen, here's the question, Stephen A. Too bad you're missing it. You're safe there. He won't beat you up.
No, it's all right.
Teddy loves me. He would never hit me. He'd hit Skip though.
Okay.
He would. I agree.
All right.
I'm on my best behavior. You're on.
Be careful.
I got love for Skip too. I just can't reach him all the time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about better owner, Floyd or Oscar, in your opinion. Or neither. That's still an option.
Yeah. Look, I think that it's the right direction. You're looking for minorities. You're looking for people that are involved in sports, that are passionate about sports. I think those are all the right direction. I think that obviously De La Hoya has a little edge because he's already had some involvement in a soccer team. Yeah. So, it's not just about passion. It's not just about being a minority. It's not just about having money. It's about having the structure, the infrastructure, knowing how to run a professional franchise like this. This is a big business, And so you have to have people around you. They would have people around them, obviously. De La Hoya already has some of that structure around them with Peter Schaefer and those guys, Richard Schaefer, I should say, and those guys with the businesses that he already runs, or if he doesn't run them, they run them. But I think it's interesting with Floyd. You know, I like Floyd. I like him, and he's fun. And the only thing is, let's speak honestly, Floyd would have to stop some of his habits. You know, he likes to bet on the NBA, you know, so they don't play around with that. So the first thing is that they would obviously have to do a research of Floyd and feel comfortable, and they being the people that make those decisions, the other owners and the powers that be, to make sure that Floyd was not going to be involved in any extracurricular activities such as gambling, which is no problem in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. He does what's legal. But if he's an owner of a team, it's a problem. So, and I'm sure that he'd be able to do that. Anyone who's disciplined enough to get in the ring and do what Floyd does, they're disciplined enough to rearrange their life and do what they want to do in those kind of ways because they have to do those things. But again, Floyd doesn't have the infrastructure that De La Hoya has with Richard Schaefer, that they already own a soccer team. He doesn't have that. He'd have to make sure he had that infrastructure around him, which I'm sure he could put it together. But he'd have to have the professional people to run the team, not just a passion to be a sports owner.
All right, Stephen A. Floyd, Oscar, the pair, neither?
Neither. Oscar De La Hoya is synonymous with sports but not basketball, and he's had his well-notable problems in the past. And considering the fact that you're just dealing with the Donald Sterling issue, I think you want somebody with a relatively flawless education that you're going to invite in. That's not to knock Oscar De La Hoya. I'm just giving you the attitude that the Board of Governors for the NBA, consisting of the 29 owners left after Donald Sterling is exiled, along with the commissioner, the attitude that they will have. That's number one. Number two, Teddy Atlas is absolutely right about Floyd's habits. I have no doubt that Floyd can change whatever he needs to change. He's certainly not doing anything illegal, but he does like to gamble. He brags about it. He loves to win gambling, and that doesn't fly in sports, and it's not going to fly with the NBA. If it did, the NBA would already have had a team in Las Vegas. They don't, and there's a reason for that. And so we have to take that into consideration as well. The other part about Floyd that I would say wouldn't work is that this whole thing he's got going on with Bob Arum, that's one man you can't work things out with. And because of it, we've been waiting years for a fight between himself and Manny Pacquiao, even though I'm on the record saying that's not entirely Floyd's fault. Floyd picked up the phone, offered him $40 million. That's double what Manny's made anywhere else. He said get $20 million to you cash in 48 hours. Manny still turned it down. But still in all, the primary hindrance and roadblock to a Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight has been his relationship with Bob Arum. Well, what about when you have to work with 29 other owners and you have to vibe with them in a fashion to get things done? You know, I mean, Floyd is incredibly confident in his decision-making ability, some of the decisions that he makes and his thoughts or whatever, and playing the political game. He knows how to do it. He can do it when necessary, but that's a lot to ask from somebody who is ultra confident as he is. And so the combination of that, along with his affinity for gambling, I would say no, it won't work.
I would say no on both counts, on Oscar and especially on Floyd. And forgive me for this, Floyd, but it is laughable you would even suggest you could own the Clippers after what we just went through with Donald Sterling. Does anyone but me remember the Ustream rant of a few years back by one Floyd Mayweather Jr. in which he spewed racial slurs about Manny Pacquiao? I wish I could detail them, but I won't subject our audience to them, but they were some really low blows. So we would go from frying pan into the fire. And I'll just throw this out because you need somebody with a track record to own a franchise of this magnitude. Floyd did have his 90 days in jail for his domestic abuse, his domestic violence that he served not too long ago. So you're just disqualified. Seriously, in a vacuum, do I think that Floyd could run the franchise and make really good decisions? I do.
Sure.
I think he has a high sports intellect. I would trust that. But I don't trust what he's made of, so you're out. I'm sorry. I can't even take this seriously.
Your
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, you can't argue.
I mean, you know me. I love me some Floyd Mayweather Jr.
You do?
You know, I think he's the best boxer in the world. I love his skill set. I love what he brings to the world of sports. I just love everything about him from a sports perspective. But when you bring those other things into consideration,
Right, hard to
I'm not
do.
going to sit up here and be a phoney and deny
Yeah,
that.
if
The
I'm-
fact of the
look,
matter
if
is you
I'm-
make very valid points.
If I'm sitting in the jury and I'm listening to these two lawyers on both sides of me that just made their cases, they made good cases. I mean, they did. I'm a boxing guy, you know, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But we're in a world that influences more than just opinions and our likes. It influences people's livelihoods, and it influences a very large business in this country that makes millions of dollars. So you have to have the right people in there. De La Hoya has had problems personally in his life.
He has?
Controlling himself, quite honestly. Even though fighters control themselves more than anybody else in the
you're
ring.
right.
I mean, really.
They
But
do.
outside the ring, he had problems controlling himself personally, and that's something that you would have to be cognizant of, and you would have to be concerned about. And Floyd, as both of you and Stephen both said, has had those problems in his own controlling areas. And again, I think you said it the right way. We're coming from one situation, and with the situation with Floyd, look, he didn't mean it in racial terms.
Sure.
A guy, a fighter, especially a black fighter, thinks differently when he says those things. He's thinking, I don't have no racial, animosity in me. He really, but he thought he was being funny. He thought he was being clever, and he thought that he was above the fray, that he could say those things and be allowed to say those things. And you're wrong. You should never say those
Well, in the
things, and they
context
have
of your
impact.
sport, okay, but if you're talking about owning the Los Angeles Clippers, you're out.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, it doesn't cross over.
All right, Teddy Atlas, you're sticking around after the break, correct? It's the fight everyone wants to see, Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao. But this is what Mayweather had to say of Pacquiao after his last fight. I don't see the same pop in Pacquiao shots. Once again, I'm not saying this guy is doing anything, but I don't see the same snap in his shots. He's getting tired when he wasn't getting tired before. I'm seeing something totally different. Whereas me, I'm still sharp. I'm still smart. I'm not getting fatigued. I wasn't getting fatigued from the beginning, and those are the things that I see. I don't know if you guys see it, but that's what I see. He's just giving his analysis. He's an astute boxing man.
What do I see? I see that Skip's definitely not on PEDs.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
How do you know that?
Hey,
Sure.
Stephen might be.
Perhaps.
I wish.
He's bulked up a little bit. But look, I'll get right to the point. I mean, I don't have a problem getting right to the point usually, especially in boxing business. If you don't get to the point, you get knocked out. And I understand what he's saying, and I agree with him.
Whoa.
Yeah. And look, Floyd is a guy that you don't agree with all the time, obviously, but I agree with him. I picked Bradley the last time, which I know that my man Skip has been very polite and very gentlemanly, not getting on me yet.
I wasn't even going to bring it up.
But I think fair is fair. When you give, you can take. I give, I can take. I was wrong. And I appreciate Skip being a gentleman and not bringing it up. But the reason I picked Bradley is I thought that Pacquiao was off the juice. Now, look, I have no proof. Let's get this straight before the haters come out. I have and say that I don't like Filipino people. I have no proof. I think that Pacquiao is a heck of a fighter, and he's been a heck of a fighter for the last decade. And he's been involved in some terrific fights. But he was bigger. He was stronger. He moved up from a weight where usually jockeys are involved in, on horses, 105 pounds. He moved up to 112, 118, 126, 130, 135, 147, 100. I mean, he just kept moving up, and his body kept staying with him. I mean, really, it's a little unusual. I mean, we're intelligent people. At least we purport ourselves to think we're intelligent. Let's be honest with what we see. Doesn't mean that I know he's doing it. I don't. Unless I see him put a needle in his arm, I don't know. But I know that his body continued to get bigger. to go along with his increase. It didn't look like he was too small. And I know that his power continued to be there. Usually your power doesn't stay there. That many advances in weight classes. That many. Yeah. His power stayed there. His speed stayed there. Usually you get bigger, you get a little slower, unless you're Stephen A. You know, he stays fast all the time. But usually you get a little slower. He didn't get slower. He might have got faster, but he didn't get slower. And the size was there, and the power was there. Since 2009, he hasn't knocked anyone out. Now, why? I mean, you can make a million reasons why. Maybe he's making too much money and he's let off the gas pedal. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Less urgency. Maybe. Maybe that's why Bradley didn't perform well. He's made a lot of money in his last few fights, and maybe he didn't have the urgency because he didn't look good in that fight. I don't know how much of that last fight was Pacquiao looking so good and Bradley looking so bad. I think it was a combination. But I do agree with Floyd, and I have to say it, that I had the same questions, that this guy looked like he used to be on the juice. And again, I didn't know it other than what my eye test is telling me. How does he keep going up these weight classes? His body keeps conforming with him, and his speed stays there, and his power stays there. So I think that it's a fair point. Has he not knocked anyone out to 2009 because he's not on the juice anymore? I don't know. Right. I mean, it's not like he's suddenly fighting Godzilla. I mean, he's fighting the same kind of guys, you know, that he was knocking out before.
Stephen A., he doesn't pass the eye test for Teddy. Something's not right. He doesn't know for sure. Your take.
He's never passed the eye test for me.
Oh, okay.
Of course I agree with Teddy.
Okay.
Of course I agree with Floyd Mayweather Jr., the best boxer on the planet Earth, by the way. Let me say something right now. Let me be very, very clear. Floyd's analysis of both Pacquiao and Bradley was spot on. Bradley does look like he's in the weight room too much. He does look like he's more interested in how he looks when he steps on the scale as opposed to when he steps in the ring the following night. Manny Pacquiao doesn't look like he's got the same pop on his punches, the same snap on his punches. And he does look a little bit more fatigued as the fight wanes, as opposed to how he used to look just a few years ago. So there's no doubt about that. And I don't think that Floyd is wrong in saying what he's saying, because when you're talking about the sport of boxing, please understand something. When you saw what Pacquiao did to Miguel Cotto with that TKO, I think it was like the 11th round he did him in. The kind of beating that Miguel Cotto took where his family ended up leaving ringside because they couldn't stay there and watch the bloody mess that he was. Do you think that Miguel Cotto has that done to him by the Manny Pacquiao that we've been seeing, Teddy? I don't think so. Not the one that we've been seeing recently. So all I'm saying is in the sport of boxing, one fight could potentially devastate you for the rest of your career because of the kind of beating that you take. And what Floyd has always been saying is, I know what I'm seeing, and I know the sport of boxing. I don't care what any of y'all say. All I want is a fair fight. And at the time, what he was saying was, I don't think it would have been a fair fight against Manny Pacquiao because I think he's on something. And now we're seeing the dissipated level of skill in Manny Pacquiao. And we're saying, well, you know what? Floyd looks like he had a point more and more every single day. That's all I got to say.
That's all he has to say. Skip has something to say. We will talk about it.
I am about to counterpunch.
You can
hold that thought.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a break.
Please.
Welcome back to First Take, everyone. Manny Pacquiao's pop is gone, so says Mayweather's. Skip Bayless, your take.
In fairness to Manny Pacquiao, and fairness is not a word we use on the show much when we talk about Manny Pacquiao, at least when Stephen A. Smith speaks about him, it is possible that Manny Pacquiao has recommitted to his spirituality, to his faith, a little more lately, that his heart and soul is not in punishing his opponents the way it was back to 2009 and before. It is possible that he has refocused more on his political career since Floyd Mayweather has been running and running and running from him, and he might have lost a little interest in knocking people out. He put on a clinic against Timothy Bradley. He hit him a bunch of times in an iron jaw that is Timothy Bradley's. Bradley took a lot of shots and took them and stood up. But in the end, Floyd Mayweather has often in the past suggested that Manny was juicing, and now I think he's suggesting that Manny is clean. So I'm suggesting, Floyd, why are you still afraid to fight Manny? If he's clean now, if he's lost his pop, let's make this fight happen now, because he's there for the taking. You're what, 42 or 3 years old now? I lose track. Fight him. Let's do it, I don't know, next 3 or 4 months. Why not? Because clearly now you could knock him out. You can't knock anybody else out because you don't have much of a pop in your punch either, but you surely could knock out this man who's off the juice, so to speak. So I'm saying, what is the problem now, Floyd? Why not fight?
Well, first of all, Skip, you know, Bradley doesn't have an iron shin. He's got a heart that's as big as the outdoors, but he was on the floor 3 or 4 times against Provodnikov. So Provodnikov, which a lot of people don't even know who he is, he came out of nowhere, a Russian fighter, and he almost knocked out Bradley. And Pacquiao wasn't able to do that. So he doesn't have an iron chin. So you still have to think about what has Pacquiao lost. There's no doubt about that. Look, is that a fair point that you bring up, that he's distracted, that he's been eroded by his problems? He's had family problems. He's had marital problems. He's suddenly found religion. He's involved in politics. He also owes a lot of money. The government's going after him. He owes a lot of taxes. So those are things that can distract you. There's no doubt about it. But from a physical realm that we're looking at, he looks different. I mean, really, it's the common sense test. It's the eye test. He looks different. Beyond that, it's up for opinion, which we're throwing opinion all over the place here. But, I mean, I think that as far as not making a fight, it's not Floyd being afraid of him. Look, I'm going to give you a little something towards your point, where Floyd cares about his legacy. That's important. Keeping that zero is important. It means money to him. It means things to his family. It means things for, as I said, his legacy. But he would make the fight. I think it's a matter of, as Bob Arum and him hate each other. They can't get together. Both would have to give something. I think now Pacquiao would have to give more because he's been diminished by that loss to Marquez. He got knocked out flat where he was snoring. So
he got robbed against Bradley, but it's still a loss.
Yeah. Okay. So he's been diminished a little. So Floyd has a little bit more power. So somebody has to move. And Arum ain't moving. He's 85 years old. You talked about Floyd being 42. Well, he's really only 38. But Arum's about 85. And Arum ain't moving. And so Arum's not going to give anything. So that fight's going to be very hard to have. And both guys have options. It's not like they're on a food line. Both guys can go out there and make millions of dollars with other people. So there's no urgency to have to make that fight. And if there's no urgency and both sides hate each other and both sides don't want to make concessions, guess what? They don't care about the public. They care about control and they care about their bank accounts. And their bank accounts are still pretty good.
All right, Stephen A.
And let's keep in mind, one of those people who cares about their bank account is Manny Pacquiao, who needs Floyd to make the kind of money he wants to make. But he's got to get himself separated from Arum in order to make the fight happen. Skip doesn't want to accept the reality of business in the boxing world. This is what it is. It's not like, you know, with the UFC, what did Dana White come in studio just last week and explain to us? All his fighters are under one promotional arm. That is of the UFC, which is why he's able to give you the fights that you want when you want them. That's not the case in boxing. And everyone wants to bring up how Floyd won't move, but nobody wants to bring up how Arum won't move and that Pacquiao is controlled by Arum. So in the end, don't blame Floyd for that. You know, look at Arum too. And after you do that, all we have to go on is who looks like the better fighter. 45 have tried.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
45 have failed.
Yeah, and none of those are Manny Pacquiao. That's the point.
Floyd, Money, Mayweather.
Yeah, you know what?
Say what you will, but it is what
I can see Stephen carrying, pretty soon carrying, no, not ring cards, belts. Belts in the ring, belts.
Let me tell you, Teddy, Teddy,
I'll bring you
I
in
will
the
go
corner
on the
with me.
record.
I'll bring
I
you
will
in
go
the
on the
corner
record
with
and
me.
say this.
All right,
I'll
Tim,
come
we
back
got
and say, I'll come
we
back
got
to
30
say,
seconds
Floyd
left.
Mayweather champion.
Ask me to
Just so
carry
I
his
can
belt
Bayless,
into the
thank
ring.
you
I would
so
do it.
much for
I
joining
would do
us.
it.
Next time you can have this debate
I know
with
you
here.
will.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
The next big thing, the next new kid, the next overnight sensation, the next rookie, one to watch, the next Hall of Famer, the next Intimidator, the next six-time, the next king. Next. Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The History 300 at Charlotte, Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC.